So, Kev, we're coming into Saturday's game off the back of two convincing home wins. How much have these two results helped to build some momentum ahead of a long road trip?
Yeah, listen, I think first and foremost, I think the performance was really good Saturday, because it could have been a tricky one. Folks in good form. So delighted the lads that come into the team. Thought done ever so well, and following on from the previous home game where to win 3, not concede any, was really important. So in a good place, and the lads are trained ever so well. So delighted with them.
How has the 7-day gap between fixtures allowed you to manage the condition of some of the players this week?
Yeah, I think it's because there's a lot of games at the start of the season, and they come in bursts of Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday. So it's nice to have a little bit of a break, and it's just managing that from playing to recovery to getting real intense work into them and some good detail. So no, listen, really pleased with how they've been the last couple of games, and with the training, and how they've the professionalism and really at it. So delighted with everyone.
Morecambe have had a staggered start to their season. What do you make of the challenge that they're going to pose?
Yeah, obviously, listen, in a bit of a difficult spot, but we can only focus on ourselves. I know there's things happened in the summer there, and we're privy to stuff like that, of course, and if anything shows how well we've done during that period, and credit to everyone within the football club that got us into a position of just missing out on the playoffs during that with the points deduction. So it can be difficult, but added a lot of players, a lot of change. Watching the game, they have lots of possession, a lot of the ball, and they're quite expansive with it, and how they play. They've given up goals, we can see that, but I'm sure they'll want to get out of that run. Of course they will, you know what I mean? So listen, we've got to focus on ourselves. That's all we can do, and that's the players, and making sure we're right.
Morecambe, a former EFL club, then one of the better supported clubs in the league, and we're bringing at least 300 fans of our own. It should make for a good atmosphere at the game, shouldn't it?
Always, yeah. Listen, whenever we travel, and we've had a lot of miles to cover, the fans, and so grateful to them how they travel. The numbers last away game to Boreham Wood. They've done Gateshead, they've done Truro. Obviously the Rochdale one called off. So listen, wherever we go, it makes for a good atmosphere, because with the numbers we take, and of course Morecambe, have come down the league, and as you say, they'll be well supported, of course. But yeah, listen, it all adds to a decent atmosphere, hopefully.
Nice one, thank you, Kev.
Thank you.
Brilliant, Kevin. Great to see you winning the FA Cup of the weekend. What would you say was the biggest takeaway from that 4-1 win?
No, pleased with the performance against a team that could have been difficult. They're in good form themselves. So, and just the levels we hit, especially within that first half. Delighted with that. And I think what we had last week was behind closed doors game, then that game. So it got people who hadn't played loads of minutes, got them into a decent place. Because when you're not playing and the squad isn't massive, it's important they get minutes to get a rhythm of their game, and get used to playing and get used to finishing games in 90 minutes. So they had a good week on terms of that, and I think that leaves, the ones who've been playing have had a decent rest and makes sure everyone's ready to go now.
You touched on the importance of that balance of sort of recovery and training. I suppose at this level, everyone wants to give it their all 100%. It's in games and in training as well. Just give us an insight into how tight a balance that is to strike in terms of that maintenance of your players.
Yeah, I think off the back of when you play Saturday, Tuesdays, you've got to give a balance, and what it looks like. The week, Monday, you will always have a group that haven't played, will do extra. Everyone's out on the grass. Tuesday's a working day, really intense day, and the lads are, we've been pretty consistent with that everyone's got to be bang at it in training. We're not out there for hours and hours, but it's short and sharp, and we've got to get them to the level that when you come to the game, it's almost, it takes care of itself, because training is at it. So it's just managing that, and getting, like you say, the behind closed doors game was good for us with Charlton. It gives the ones that needed it, because it can be difficult coming on and not used to playing, then asked to play. And I've got to say that probably George Wind felt that hadn't played loads. Coming to the team becomes a little bit difficult, and it sometimes takes time to get up to speed.
And you mentioned actually, yeah, I was on a train of thought, just was there. Just on the team news side of things, obviously Ben Goodliff came off in the game, and also Gus Scott Morris wasn't involved at the weekend. How are they?
Yeah, and this is Gus, someone we're trying to manage a little bit with his hip problem that he's had. So I felt it was a chance to give him a break with the amount of games he's played. You look at Gus's season last year, the back end of last year, the playoffs, he's playing every minute. And again this season, because he's been so consistent for us since he's been here and what he's done. With the off season and the playoffs going so far, they only got 3.5 weeks off. So it's something we've got to manage, and with Gus we decided to give him the break, from the game, but then allow him to manage it and train this week. Goody came off with an ankle thing that he's been carrying a little bit. So we let that settle down with him, and see how he's going Saturday.
But almost a full availability in your squad around that sort of management you're talking about, I suppose. How valuable is that sort of continued competition for places that you have in there as well? Yeah,
it has to be. I think it's the strength of the team is the strength of the squad if you want, and what you want is people coming into the team and pushing others. When they get their chance, and I think the ones that done that Saturday done it brilliantly, and that's a credit to them. And obviously the ones who played the week before got a win, and we managed to change 5, I think, from the weekend, which is a good sign. So really pleased with everyone at it. And they've got to keep pushing.
Someone who probably made a really strong case on Saturday, Slavi Spazov, with his 2 goals. That's 4 in his first 7 games for the club, and 5 goal involvements. So, I mean, how strong a case is he making among those forwards at the moment? Yeah,
of course. And listen, forwards scoring goals they're going to make a case for themselves, of course. And so I thought his goals come from being in the right place. And that's goal scorers' goals. Them. So delighted with him. Delighted with his work rate and his attitude. And he's worked hard to get that chance, and I think he done ever so well. And being in the right place at the right time is a great knack for a goal scorer.
Definitely. Now Morecambe away, and obviously no win for them in 7 out of the FA Cup, and in the replay on Tuesday as well. You mentioned that you feel like they're going to be a very possession-based side. What will be the key to breaking that up and getting Southend dominant in that area?
Yeah, listen, I think they're up the top 4 or 5 of the division for possession. But it's what you do with that possession, of course, and we've got to be ruthless at the right times. But listen, you go away from home in the National League's always a tough game. You've got to be at it, and that's what we keep saying. We've got to have standards that we've got to keep to. Whether that's with the ball or without the ball, that shouldn't change. And if we do that, then hopefully our threats, counter theirs, and likewise. And we know the situation they're in terms of not winning games, of course, and as that grows, the desperation to want to win becomes more, and the threats they'll cause or pose, will be have good threats going forward, with what they've got, and they're comfortable on the ball in the right areas, but we've got to get ourselves right.
I mean, it's been a tumultuous time for the club in recent weeks as well. It's been a time when they've rebuilt the squad, they're constantly changing. I suppose, to what extent does it make them, to a certain degree, an unknown entity as well? Yeah,
there's always that, and of course, we can relate to what's gone on there, and you've got to give credit to everyone who's worked behind the scenes and everyone at the football club, because no one likes to see that. And when you have a big turnover of players, it can take a lot of time to get where you need to be. So, I'm sure longer term they'll get there, and we can feel that and we can see it before, but we've got to get our job right.
If I may return to something very quickly as well, just thinking obviously in the management of players, in the wake of Mental Health Day, which was last week as well, how much of sort of managing the players' sort of mentality and those sort of things comes into maintaining that management process? Yeah,
players and managers, mental. Listen, I think there's always that, and listen, I think it was last Friday, was it the Mental Health Day, and listen, what's gone on recently it's been quite well documented with Ricky Hatt and Matt Beard, who's obviously Mark, his brother, is very close to me and I know him very well. It can't be underestimated, what goes on. It's a topic, especially within footballers and sport. There's a lot of pressures from the outside, some of it completely unnecessary. But you know, as men, there's this tough exterior. And I see the lads done a brilliant piece, and the club done a brilliant piece, you know, with the lads and some of ours, and it goes to show that, listen, they're human beings, you know, and first and foremost, they're footballers seconds, and I think that's important for players and every sports person to realise that they've got a life outside football, and when people talk about them and speak about them, they've got feelings as well, and they've got to deal with that as well. So, you know, before you start spouting stuff off, and think about the repercussions of what might be, you know, because as tough as they are as footballers and resilient as they are, they've also got a side to them that they've got to get right.
And in a world where we have social media, where things it can be so much more accessible, those opinions as well, it's a hard thing to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, listen, you know, and that's a sad side of the environment and social life, if you want. Listen, I've had it. You know, I've had my family drawn into stuff, and it's strange that people feel the need to do that. But, you know, my concerns with the players, of course, and you know, that's part of the modern world. It's not always a nice part, but it's something we've got to deal with. But we shouldn't just turn a blind eye to.
Absolutely. Just one more for me. Obviously, you got the FA Cup draw. You got a draw against Wealdstone away. Obviously, been there before the season. What was your reaction when you got the draw?
Yeah, looking forward to it. You know, local will bring a big following again, and make it a great atmosphere for everyone. And yeah, listen, one we can look forward to.
Kevin, thank you.
Thank you.
How's Charlie Kendall?
Yeah, listen, I think he went to see someone the other day, and probably still going to be a couple of weeks in terms of with the hamstring and things around it. So we've got to just slightly change his programme, what he's doing. So he's going to continue on that.
Yeah, and obviously this is going to be a game that brings a lot of attention towards clubs that have been sort of struggling sort of financially. Do you think enough is done to sort of help clubs when they're struggling? It always seems to be the clubs themselves that suffer for other people's sort of misdemeanours, really.
Absolutely. I think, you know, as I said, we can relate to Morecambe a lot, and we've lived it, so we know. You can feel alone when the clubs are going through that. And listen, I think the regulators of the football authorities can really take a close look and make sure it doesn't happen to clubs, because we see how close we came. So you know, it'd be terrible to lose clubs like that. And you know, thankfully Morecambe have come through that. But I've got a challenge to get back to where they want to be, of course. And you know, yeah, it's not nice to see when it goes to football clubs, because it is football clubs are more than just players, owners. It's the fans, you know, and we've been through it. And this Southend is all about the fans, and it's, you know, owners, managers, etc. But they're the ones that suffer mostly, the fans, and it's their football club, has been for hundreds of years, and it continues to be.
Yeah, because it could have been a fixture that could have been lost, really, couldn't it? Very close to both sides.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it could have been one that was in the league not so long ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, listen, it can happen quicker than you think, and we've got to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen to the likes of Morecambe, to ourselves.
Yeah, just finally, sort of away from that, loans, is there anything to players going in, players going out, anything on that stage?
Not right now, no. There might be movement in terms of one or two to go out, you know, if possible, but nothing to report right now.